Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on where you're joining from. We're so excited to have you here. Today, we'll be talking about building, integrating, and developing for multi-cloud compliance, and we're very appreciative of your time and interest in this topic. We have a great set of speakers here, great set of experts here, and we're looking forward to driving an interactive conversation. So with that, let's jump right into it. So some of the rules of engagement, please use the chat to post questions. We'll have some experts on the call here that'll be answering your questions. I will also be monitoring the chat, and sometimes I'll read out your questions, and we'll try our best to help answer as many questions as possible. So let's make it interactive and let's make it a fun learning experience as well. Session is being recorded, and here's our code of conduct. I think you're all familiar with it if you've been in Microsoft Live events before, so I'm not going to drain the slide. And let's jump into the introduction. So my name is Ahmad Rajub. I'm a director of product marketing. I focus on compliance ecosystem. Super excited to be having a great set of experts with me. And
hi, my name's Anne Rahim. I'm a program manager in Microsoft 365 compliance, focusing on partner workloads like Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Graph.
Awesome, thank you. Nick, can you please introduce yourself? What do you do?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ahmad. Hey, everyone. Nick Robinson, program manager with Microsoft 365 Compliance, focused on e-discovery, and I look after the search and collections experience and e-discovery across our core and advanced solutions.
Thank you so much. And last but not the least, Yaron.
Thank you, Ahmad. Hello, everybody. My name is Yaron Hezroni. I'm a program manager in the Microsoft Teams platform and ecosystem team.
Awesome. So we have a great set of speakers. So let's just jump into it. I want to set a quick context here. So I want to start with why. Why are we building this compliance ecosystem? Why are we building it for a multi-cloud reality? We understand and we believe that our customers, most of our customers have multi-cloud strategies. They want to be able to apply our compliance solutions to their entire data landscape, to their entire set of IT infrastructure, and not just Microsoft data and sources. And that's why we are bringing our compliance solutions to non-Microsoft data sources and systems. And that our compliance solutions include, as you all know, information protection and governance, insider risk management, advanced e-discovery, data loss prevention, compliance management, and so on. So all of those capabilities being able to bring to multi-cloud data sources is super critical to what we're trying to do. And with that context out of the way, I want us to jump into the discussion really here and start the conversation with, we talked about number of Graph APIs in our breakout session, and I would look to Yaron to walk us through a little bit about what are the ways our customers and developers can enable multi-cloud compliance scenarios using our Microsoft Graph APIs.
Yeah, sure, Hamad. Well, compliance is all about protecting data, and Graph is all about accessing data. So of course, those work together very well. With the Graph APIs that we discussed over the session, for example, you can get access to team messages. So this is really important for our customers who need to protect the data in the organization, whether it's through archiving it for compliance purposes, to access it for e-discovery investigations or DLP, data loss prevention solutions. Those Graph APIs give you application-based access to those assets, to team messages or other Graph surfaces that Graph allows to get the data in either in real time or in bulk access, and have your solution able to process it for your needs.
Awesome, thank you. That totally makes sense. And speaking of Microsoft Graph APIs, I know, Nick, you talked about some of the new enhancements to our advanced e-discovery API. Do you want to share with our developers what is the latest and greatest in that space? We may have lost Nick. We'll come back to him for a bit, but I'll stay with you, Yaron, for one more second here. When you talk about Microsoft Graph APIs, and you talk about the scenarios that we enable, and of course, we talk about compliance scenarios first here. What is your guidance for enterprise developers? And is there a difference between how you see between enterprise developers and ISV developers?
I think the first important guidance and tip I always give developers or ISVs that I work with is know what you need to access, right? So make sure you understand what are the requirements of the solution, what you need to access. Again, I'll gravitate to Teams because that's where I spend most of my day work with. But in Teams, you can share chat messages with a group of people. You can also have channel messages with the members of the team. You can share files throughout, and other content in a message. So know exactly what do you need access to, what needs to be under compliance, and then identify, of course, the Graph API that will help you to retrieve that content. So I think that's kind of the most important thing in my mind when I think about developers. Now, from a development point of view, Graph allows for different type of access, permission access. So if you're familiar with Graph, you can access Graph through delegate permissions with getting the user consent to access the data. But in most cases for compliance, you would want to use the application permissions, get consent from the tenant admin for your application to get access for tenant-wide access for all the data. Right? So in the case of Teams, get access to all team messages is quite unique and high value proposition of the API. So those are important things to bear in mind. You need to get consent. You need to know what to access, and then of course which API to go and get what data that you need.
Love it. I think, and that's a really interesting and important point too, right? Because that is additional layer of security. Like that's what you have to go through. You have to be very mindful of what data you're trying to access, and of course you have to have all kind of access controls in place, and only then you'll be able to get access to the data and be able to use in your applications, whether they are enterprise line of business applications built in-house or ISV built applications. So that's a great call out. Thanks, Sharon. So I'm going to switch gears and come to Anne here for a little bit. And you talked about really cool innovation coming on our platform, enabling the built-in compliance. So I have two questions for you. If you can speak to that a little bit, what was the announcement, if you can summarize that? And I have a question for you from Ayush. He's saying, hey, Anne, in your demo, you briefly mentioned adaptive cards. Could you elaborate a bit more on how they work? So if you just add a little bit of context and then take a stab at answering this question, that'll be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So we're so excited to announce built-in compliance, starting with advanced e-discovery for all app partner data ingested through Microsoft Graph. So this is a huge step forward in terms of first being able to bring in external partner data and get compliance for your data, which is a huge, for many enterprise customers, an adoption requirement that they require compliance capabilities in order to use your app because of their own legal obligations that they must fulfill for any data that they use. And second, it's a huge deal because not only with one integration via Microsoft Graph are you getting those compliance capabilities, but you're also lighting up experiences across Microsoft 365 ecosystem, from intelligent discovery to enterprise search. So your app content is not only getting much more features, but you're also getting a much broader reach within our entire ecosystem. So it's a really exciting feature release, and we're so excited for you guys to come into the ecosystem and get much more users using your apps.
Awesome, thanks, Anne. That's really good guidance. Let's continue that for a little bit more, and let's jump into few more details around this, right? So if I'm a developer, what can our developers be doing to benefit from it? Like if I'm a developer, I saw your breakout session. I'm hearing you talk about this at the Ask the Expert session as well. And I understand now it's about built-in compliance. The app is enlightened. It's becoming part of compliance solutions, starting with advanced discovery. I'm all excited. I want to start developing applications. Tell me, where should I go? What should I do? What's the step number 0?
Yeah, of course. So I'm excited too. So step 0 definitely is building that graph connector. So Microsoft Graph Connectors offer a really simple way to bring in your external data into Microsoft Graph and enhance our Microsoft 365 intelligent experiences. So there's several APIs that you can use to bring your data in. I'll highlight a few. The first is our Connections API. It'll help you create and manage your external data connections. And another really relevant one to cover would be your Schema API, which will help you define and register your schema for your external data type. So what's the schema? It's just a list of properties that you plan to add to your data connection, and it'll have your attributes, the labels. It basically helps us understand what data you're bringing in and then map your properties to our other experiences. So with that one integration, you're now lighting up multiple different experiences, like, of course, compliance. So to learn more details about those APIs, you can visit aka.ms/graph-connectors. There's an entire section on working with the connectors API there. And then as well, you'll want to include as many semantic labels, specifically the security and compliance properties. These are advanced e-discovery properties that if you include, we can light up more functionality, more searching and querying within the advanced e-discovery workflow. And there are common properties that are required for legal investigations, things like what was the title, who was the sender, who participated, when was it created. So the purpose of advanced e-discovery is to know who knew what, when, and these properties help you figure that out in a legal case. And then finally, going back to the adaptive cards question. So that's an awesome question. Adaptive cards actually enable developers to exchange UI content in a common way. So platform agnostic snippets of UI describing their content as a simple JSON object that apps and services can openly exchange. And it's super powerful because the JSON object is transformed into native UI that automatically adapt to its surroundings. So for example, if an app partner creates an adaptive card, when the payload's sent to Microsoft Teams, it would look and feel like Microsoft Teams, but it would still represent that app partner's content in a consistent way. So it's one schema, richer expression, broad reach for a consistent user experience. So we're really excited to offer you guys this new service and really excited to also see what you guys bring in.
That's amazing. I really like how you said it, and the concept of being able to abstract the UX out of the whole process and having that adaptive card being representative of whatever the state the UI is in and being able to show it consistently across M365. And of course, the data is coming from third-party SaaS applications, on-premise systems, third-party cloud providers, all of that. I think just the end-to-end story and the capability that it brings to our developers is really, really fascinating. So I'm really glad to hear the way it's coming together for our developers. So that's awesome to hear. I'll go back. Yeah, Ron, yes.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to add, because
yes,
first, great explanation of adaptive card, and so great job on that. Even here in Delhi for Microsoft. I want to add that in Teams, when you share adaptive cards in a message, because of the JSON representation that is kind of universal behind the scene, you get all that information as part of the export or channel notification API, right? When you retrieve a message that contains an adaptive card, that information comes to you as well in that message notification, which makes it very easy for you to not only maintain compliance and security for the actual message, but also for the content that comes in the message or in the adaptive card in this case. So just wanted to add that point here.
But I think it's a great point. It's a very fine point, but it's a great point. What you're saying is that adaptive card rendering and the adaptive card as metadata, it's associated with the messages. It's persistent. You're using the API, it's there. You're using the user experience, it's there, and that just gives it a sense of it being ubiquitous and universal, which is really, really cool. So I'll stay with you, Yaron, a little longer. When I know you mentioned a scenario in your breakout session, and for those of us who are parents and have joined this conversation or listened to you in the breakout session, would definitely want to learn more. You talked about cyberbullying scenario. Of course, we're talking about compliance, but I think that scenario is very important that that's enabled by our APIs, my Microsoft Graph APIs for Teams. You want to speak to that a little bit? What is that scenario? What's the partner solution? I think that's a really, really rich and impactful story right there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is one of those moment at work, and I work with many partners who deliver many type of solutions around compliance. When you get to work with partners who save children's life in the line of work, it all makes sense, right? So the same APIs that we describe for to use in data loss prevention, getting access to team messages, the same APIs are being used by multiple of our EDU education partners to monitor chat in the school, in the student kind of environment. And what they're looking there is not for any social security violation. They're looking for just different type of patterns of compliance to detect cyberbullying, to detect student self-harm, and we have a few. It's hard for me to. I mean, those are success stories, but those are, of course, sad stories of students who are typing to their friends messages around what's going on back at home, like domestic violence, and students who even wrote a suicide note on Teams on the school desktop. And so those tools, which protect students, monitor students' chat, monitor all the activity that happens, are able to intervene and alert the authorities when needed. Of course, this is a very sensitive process. Some of those partners involve use kind of AI to have a first alert, and then humans intervene to check the cases as well. Students in our days, can communicate in ways that I never knew, using emojis or different acronyms, right? That means something. So those AI engines know to detect this type of cyberbullying as well, even if it's done with emojis. So very powerful, very emotional solutions, but saving even one student's life using those type of solutions makes it all worth, right? So
yeah, that's phenomenal. That's really phenomenal, and really shows the power of technology, how we can use it for the greater good of our society, and what's more important than our children. So that's really amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to go back to Nick for a bit. And Nick, in the breakout session, you talked about some new capabilities being added to our advanced e-discovery APIs. I would love for you to speak to that a little bit. What does it mean? And what can our developers do now that we have a full spectrum of APIs that enable a full advanced e-discovery workflow? Would love to know what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ahmad. Yeah, we're really excited to share that, hey, the full end-to-end experience of advanced e-discovery is now supported by APIs in public preview. We're excited for the developers to start to get started on building things out, building custom processes for their organizations. And we think this is really important because what we've seen over time is that customers are using our core e-discovery a lot and using it for kind of mission critical processes to find relevant data, review that data, and get that data out to further downstream processes. And in a lot of cases, because they're doing these activities on a regular basis, weekly, even daily basis, currently they've been using a commandlet-based system to automate a lot of this. And so Core eDiscovery provides commandlets via PowerShell, and there's a lot of adoption that's taken place. And it's worked okay, but we've heard feedback, hey, it can be a little patchy here and there. It's not the greatest user experience, and we really wanted to modernize as we move to advanced eDiscovery and move on to this Graph APIs model. We think there's a lot of benefits of the Graph APIs. Not only is it kind of an easier, more performant way to integrate with the system, but it also is a platform. So if you have kind of horsepower or knowledge in your organization about the Graph API platform, then you're going to be able to apply that in a number of different instances, including advanced eDiscovery. So now that this has extended for the full workflow, what this means is that customers can really start to build out either integrations, automations, repeatable processes for their organization so that, hey, things are predictable, repeatable, standardized. There's less room for error. They're able to do things on more of an automated basis rather than either their eDiscovery team or their paralegal team going into the UX and doing things on kind of a one-off basis as they go through. So this is a big opportunity to transition from that commandlet-based approach that we see a lot of customers have adopted into something that's more durable, predictable, performance, and something that we see a long runway going forward. Now that the entire set is in public preview, there's no reason not to get started with building out, hey, what are the important cases for your organization? Is it integrating with an existing case management system? Is it defining standard queries that you want to use in a high number of cases? Is it automating that export so that you can get your productions out to your third-party review software downstream? So with that full suite of capabilities, really opens a lot of potential across the board.
That's amazing. Thanks, Nick. Really, really good guidance. And you spoke to it a little bit, but I want to scratch a little bit more surface. You said that these APIs are in public preview. A full set of scenarios are available, and I think you're saying a very explicit call to action. Go build with these APIs, explore the scenarios. If I may ask you, when will these APIs be generally available? Like if I'm a developer, should I wait for it to be GA to be part of my enterprise LOB application, or I'm a developer in an ISV, or can I go and start building right now?
Yeah, what we recommend is that you start to do proof of concepts and build out right now. Given that all the APIs are in public preview, they're very stable. They're ready to be utilized in a production context, but we do want to reserve the right for some final tweaks. And once these things go to general availability, there's really not a lot of iteration or changes that we're going to be able to make at that point. So we want to be really crisp and firm on what we're going to release to general availability at that time. We envision kind of a longer public preview because we want customers and ISVs to have the chance to develop and give feedback and make sure that everything is working as it needs to. So as we go through that round of validation, as we see more usage, then we'll be able to move towards that GA with the fully stable, fully baked set of APIs that are ready to be kind of in that finished state going forward.
That's awesome. Thanks, Nick. Totally makes sense. So, and there's a question in chat for you. I know you spoke to it a little bit. So if you want to take a stab at it in the chat, that's fine. But I'm gonna call it out. Can you please talk a little bit more about where did that go, about the security labels and how to enable them? And there's another question. I think it just moved a little bit. I'm going to go back to the screen here. Yeah. So I'm going to read the question, and I think I'll take a stab at it, but others, please feel free to chime in as experts. So do you plug and play existing NLP solutions to identify for this specific school use case, or do you use any custom ML? I'm going to make a quick plug to the capability that we have in our compliance platform. We call it communication compliance. We have existing built-in out-of-the-box provided machine learning algorithms that can help you flag those kind of scenarios. You can train those algorithms using a tenant level feedback loop to even fine tune it depending on your context. So that's available today out of the box, and you can use it. It's relevant both for the scenario that Yaron and I were discussing, but it's also available for a broader enterprise context too. Curious if anyone, if you have additional thoughts, Yaron, I'll start with you there.
Yeah, I mean, so Microsoft offer several cognitive services to help you analyze and use those services in analyzing kind of data. Our partners, some of our partners actually leverage the Microsoft ML and AI capabilities. Other partners develop their own, or might be using another competing platform. So there are, I think, the level of AI and ML today is quite competitive and quite rich for these type of applications. So it's really about do you want to develop the AI yourself?
Yeah.
And make that part of your IP and uniqueness of the solution, or what you can get through Microsoft or other cloud services is sufficient for your solution.
That's great. And I think you mentioned something. I want to make sure that everybody's grounded in the fact that, of course, everything that we're talking about today, we have first-party capabilities available for that. So if you talk about Teams DLP, we have a built-in solution, works out of the box. That's great. If you talk about Teams archiving, we have a solution built in out of the box, works great. Advanced e-discovery, we have a solution. Communication compliance, we have a solution. Connected apps, we have a solution. The point of all of this ecosystem is to enable and give choices to our developers, to our customers, so they can pick and choose how do they want to integrate multiple solutions and build the capabilities based on what's available and what they're interested in using. So it's purely an ecosystem play for us, and we're really excited to be part of that journey. I'm going to quickly come to you, and you talked about these new experiences that we're enabling through built-in compliance. You want to give a couple of examples that you shared in our breakout? I think they're very powerful examples and helps developers visualize and understand what can they build and how they can build.
Definitely. Yeah. So if you're curious about how, these built-in compliance solutions could help you as an app partner, here are two example scenarios we shared a bit more in our breakout session if you'd like to check it out. The first is eCareVault, one of our app partners. They're a safe and secure care coordination platform for students, and schools use them to connect their students with referrals for external healthcare providers. And this can be anything for mental health to a variety of other things. And those referrals must be acted on in a certain time period in order for students to get care quickly. So let's say an example legal investigation, you'd like to know, how many referrals did a school create to connect their students with healthcare providers. And so if you ingest that data into Microsoft Graph and you've lit up the Microsoft Teams experience, you can use eCareVault right there. And then all of that data is ingested into advanced e-discovery if and when you ever need to review that referral data for a case. Another example, Adobe Sign, they allow you to send documents and sign them directly within Teams, send them with certified delivery. And so let's say you're in a healthcare setting within Teams, so a doctor is explaining to a patient a potential vaccine trial, and that patient signs a patient consent form right within Teams. Then if required, a compliance admin could see all of the patient consent forms, so the Adobe Sign data source, right alongside conversations in Teams and Outlook, as well as any files may have been shared in OneDrive and SharePoint. So it's really bringing together our app partner data sources with our Microsoft 365 data sources so that you're seeing those that information all in a single pane of glass view.
Yeah, that's really useful. Thanks, Anne, for walking us through that. There's a question in the chat. Which of the regulations have you developed as part of the built-in solutions, GDPR, POPIs, etc.? I'll take a stab at it, but of course you are the expert, so please feel free to chime in. We have 300 plus regulations that we support, and we're constantly adding new regulations as part of our compliance platform. We have a solution area called compliance management that's part of our compliant set of offerings. So if you want to learn more, I can find a URL like pasted in the chat, or you can just look for Microsoft Compliance Management. And if you are interested in a particular regulation that's not supported today, please let us know. And as we're always expanding that space, we'll be happy to prioritize and give you the value that you're looking for. All right, so this has been a phenomenal, great conversation. We've covered the breadth of our capabilities, but we've gone a little bit deeper into types of graph APIs, talked a little bit about advanced e-discovery APIs, and then of course you're walking us through this new notion of built-in compliance, and compliance in the context of an application has been really, really good. So let's do a quick round of what are your call to actions? Like, let's start with your round. Like, how do you summarize it? What's your call to action to developers that are listening in right now?
Same as what Nick said in his call to action, right? The APIs are available. Change notification API is and patch API are already at their GA level. So go ahead, use those, subscribe to team messages, and try the API, see how it works for you. Expert API is in preview and it's going to GA very soon. So stay tuned for additional kind of announcements coming later this this quarter. Go and try it out and see how it works for you.
Awesome. And Nick, I know you already had a very clear call to action. Go try these APIs that are in public preview and build your proof of concepts. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, depending on your role, I think you have a unique opportunity to help your organization. If you're internal to, legal, and your information technology teams are likely working a lot around e-discovery, this could be a great opportunity for DevOps team to help the organization be more efficient. If you're external, if you're a partner or an ISV, this is a huge area where customers need help automating and making sure that these processes work effectively. So start to think about, hey, is this something that you could potentially offer to your customers? And look at that, get familiar with the graph. If you're not familiar with the graph yet, start to think about, hey, how does this whole graph platform work? And then how can I apply this in a compliance context for either my customer set or future customers?
Awesome, thanks, Nick. And over to you, Anne. A couple of questions, right? First, of course, what's your call to action to the developers who are listening in? And also, do you have, I'm not going to let you off the hook. I'm going to ask you, when is the GA date for this capability? When will it be in production?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely build that graph connector, get your external data right into Microsoft Graph and into the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And when you've done that, add those security and compliance labels. That'll help us light up advanced e-discovery workflow and Microsoft compliance for you. And of course, leverage adaptive cards to build that rich preview of your UI. In terms of GA, watch out for us in the next months ahead. We're excited to bring these new capabilities to you soon.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm super grateful to the whole team that supported us in bringing all the compliance conversations, ecosystem conversations, multi-cloud conversations at this Build conference. So thank you. But also heartfelt gratitude to the experts who've been partnering with us, bringing their stories to life, being able to share those capabilities with you all developers. And last but not the least, you're the developers. We're super grateful for you to joining us, spending your time, energy, and interest with us. We're very excited to see what you build next, and we're here to partner with you on your journeys. So with that, let's switch to call to action and wrap up this call. We have this breakout session, ATEBRK245, build, integrate, and accelerate multi-cloud compliance. It's available. You can view it on demand. And here are a few links and resources that will get you started. ak.ms/comp ecosystem is where you want to go to learn latest and greatest about how we are expanding and building our compliance ecosystem, APIs, extensibility, all of that lives there. You heard about Graph Connector APIs from Anne today. If you want to get started on that journey, here's the link, ak.ms/Graph Connectors API, where you will have a very prescriptive guidance on how to get started on that. And then last but not the least, if you want to know what's happening in advanced e-discovery APIs, we have another really nice aka.ms short link for you. It's aka.ms/ediscograph. And with that, thank you so much one more time and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.